now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for June 17th. Another day in the world done and another storm that has died. Carlos has finally degenerated into a remnant low. Today, June 17th, 2021, it's day 168 of the year. 31 storms have formed so far, although that count is expected to increase over the next few days. Switching it up to the Atlantic first, obviously you can tell Bill has dissipated on day 17 of hurricane season. Invest 92L now has a 90% chance of development still. It is likely to form into a tropical depression or tropical storm within the next 2 or 3 days at most. In the eastern Pacific, there's Carlos there, which is now a remnant low, barely noticeable in terms of its attractable center. There's also a AOI in the eastern Pacific, which has surprisingly not been designated as an invest there, a 70% chance of development at this time. In the western Pacific, there is nothing active there and no areas of investigation to look out for. The count remains 5 tropical storms so far in the 2021 Western Pacific season. Good news to hear there was a few little hints of something, but that does not appear to be something that we should be designating at this time. In the North Indian Ocean, there is really nothing going on, of course. We are now pretty much past the season where you typically see North Indian Ocean cyclones develop. Although, of course, the North Indian Ocean has 2 different peaks, so of course we're right in the middle at this point. Here's the North Atlantic satellite imagery. You can see Bill pretty much dissipating there off across Newfoundland, and then of course Invest 92L. It's been trying to get itself together while in the southern area of the Bay of Campeche, although of course it will be drifting north soon where it will find more time to develop. In the eastern Pacific, you can hardly tell that Carlos is existent, and then of course to the right there you can see the beginning of what will likely become that AOI or invest that will develop in the next 4 to 5 days more than likely. In the western Pacific, it's been quiet over the last few days ever since Kagama dissipated, and there's really no signs of anything that'll be coming over the next several days. It's really just more the same of normal activity you would expect to see in June in terms of showers and thunderstorm activity. You can see in the western Pacific, the ocean there east of the Philippines, but really none of this is expected to develop into a typhoon, which of course is a good thing. In the North Indian Ocean, of course, that monsoon is still continuing towards parts of the Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea. It's a completely different story, really nothing going on there. Always interesting to see the contrast between the two oceans that share what we all know as the North Indian Ocean. In the Atlantic, of course, you can see Invest 92L there, and of course the other Eastern Pacific AOI really been taking a hit off that Central American gyre that we've been seeing over the last few weeks. So it's definitely showing its fullest potential right now, and we are seeing 2 cyclones develop off that. Here are the sea surface temperatures right now. The Pacific, of course, 28 to 30 degrees Celsius temperatures where that Eastern Pacific AOI is developing. Otherwise, it's not exactly that warm right now. Not as warm as the Gulf of Mexico, which is seeing temperatures around 28 to 27 degrees Celsius. Main development region, of course, is warming up, while the subtropics are also taking a little bit of time to warm up as well. Of course, we are now in June, so it is now the time that we do start seeing the tropics heat up in terms of sea surface temperatures. In the western Pacific and North Indian Ocean, of course, we're still looking at those 28 to 30 degrees Celsius temperatures. As long as conditions warrant it, it is definitely conducive for tropical cyclone development, although of course we have not been seeing those favorable conditions needed for it to form. So that is why we really haven't been seeing anything lately there besides Kagama, which of course dissipated a few days ago. In the southern hemisphere, it is now pretty much over there, getting close to winter at this point. I think it is winter there, so they should not be seeing any more cyclones in terms of that region for a while. Sea surface temperature anomalies, of course, that Pacific is still feeling the effects of the ENSO cold neutral. Very, very large cold wave near the central Pacific extending all the way into parts of Baja and Southern California. Subtropics are very warm, as well as parts of the Gulf Stream. Gulf of Mexico, where 92L is looking pretty good as well. On this day in 1971, Hurricane Bridget was coming off its peak as a Category 2 hurricane before making an extremely close pass to Acapulco in Mexico. bringing considerable impacts there, bringing of course 500 million pesos in damage as well as 23 deaths that were to blame from the hurricane. It became known as one of the worst storms to hit the region in over 25 years. Nothing else was active on this day in June 17th of the year 1971. With that said, we're still in code green for right now, but of course that is expected to change soon. The next two names in the Atlantic are Claudette, which we will probably see very shortly, followed by Danny. In the Eastern Pacific, we have Dolores, followed by Enrique. In the Central Pacific, guess what? We're still waiting on Hone. It's really not a surprise. Next name in the Western Pacific remains Champy, followed by Infa. And in the North Indian Ocean, the next two names there are Gulab and Shaheen, although it is not very likely we see those for a pretty long time, at least until the later portion of this year. In the Australian region, the next two names there are Patty, followed by Ruby. If we get a storm before the end of the month, the next name for the Southwest Indian Ocean will be Kanga, and the next name for the South Pacific will be Cody. That's all we have. We'll see you tomorrow night.